Is remote work dying? Is it dying? Is it going away? It's a hot topic today. So I want to talk about it. I've been remote work for a while now. I've also been in the conversations behind the scenes on this topic quite a bit. So hopefully I can bring some clarity, at least based on my opinion, my experience, which as always, that's all this is. My opinion, my experience. So first off, I think remote work brings a lot of excitement. You get a chance at improving your work-life balance, getting more time at home with the family, with your loved ones. I think it allows you to move wherever you want to. And so I think there's a lot of excitement around remote work. And I think you can see that in the number of applicants that apply to remote jobs. So I saw an article about LinkedIn where I want to say it was something less than 20% of job postings are remote. But I think it's over 80% of the applicants on the site are applying to that 20% of jobs. So there's a lot of excitement out there. But now, with companies constantly calling people back into the office, all these reports, articles, and videos about the death of remote work, now it also brings a lot of fear and concern from people who want remote jobs and are afraid they're not going to be there. And then probably even more so from people who are in remote roles who are afraid they're going to have to go back to the office or maybe even lose their job. So, first, let's just be honest with each other. Remote work isn't for everybody. You're going to have a lot of people out there who, personality-wise, work style, experience-wise, just aren't going to be as successful in a remote job as other people. For instance, if you're an extrovert and you love collaboration, communication, in-person interactions, you can certainly do remote work, but you may not like it. If you're fresh out of college, you're never going to be able to get the experience of training and learning the ropes, and not even just that, but human interaction in between coworkers. You're never going to learn it as well remote as you would in the office. That doesn't mean that you can't. It's just going to be more difficult. So I like to say that because some of these companies, they'll talk about people struggling in remote roles as a reason why they are wanting to cut it out. And I think that's legitimate. I think that that's probably true for a lot of people. But I think it's just as much true the other way, that a lot of people thrive in remote work. As far as these companies calling people back to the office, I do think most of the time it's stupid. Because if a job can be done remote and has been done remote, there's no need to bring it back, right? There may be reasons you want to. There may be things that could impact it by bringing it back, but it doesn't need to come back. You've already proven it can be successful outside of the office, so there's no need to bring it back. But that is not stopping these companies nowadays. Why are they bringing people back to the office? And then, what does that mean for remote workers? First, the reasons. I think there's two groups of reasons. There's the reason they're telling you, and then there's the real reasons. First, what is it that these companies are saying, right? What is their pitch to employees, to the world, as to why remote work needs to scale back? One is collaboration and teamwork. And as I just mentioned, for some people, that is probably true. Collaboration and teamwork could be a big factor. But can you collaborate remotely? Well, of course you can. We've had almost 2 years of experimentation where all these companies who force their people to go remote, they've not had to shut down, right? They're not losing money hand over fist, at least not because workers are remote. So of course it can be done. That's why they have all these apps, these applications, these systems, software to help establish collaboration, even when you're not physically together. Not only that, a lot of these leaders, especially senior level leaders, they're not always in the office. They work from the road all the time. Hasn't affected them, so why would it affect lower level employees? Doesn't make any sense. The next thing that they'll say is productivity. That when you're working remote, you're less productive. But there's actually been a lot of studies that have shown the opposite, that remote work's actually increased productivity in a lot of cases. And I think, again, it boils down to what kind of workforce do you have? Certain people, yeah, they probably will be less productive at home. Other people will probably thrive and be more productive at home. So, is that really the case? I don't know. I doubt it. I don't find offices very productive. I find they're full of distractions, gossip, social interactions that just take away from what work I could be doing. And then the last one, and this is my absolute favorite, is company culture. This idea that somehow by all of us being in the office, the culture of the company is somehow stronger. The issue is that no one cares about company culture. If you're like, hey, you could spend more time with your family. That's true. You could, have a better work-life balance. But then who will eat the pizza on Pizza Thursdays? And who's going to play Timmy in ping pong because we bought that ping pong table for the break room? How are we going to be best friends and go out for drinks after work if we're not in the office? It's not like you don't have each other's phone numbers. You can't just set up a meeting, a get-together. But it's about the culture, folks. So I absolutely hate that one. I've never been to a company where I've been like, I'm going to stay. I've got other opportunities, but the culture here is second to none. And then I'll throw in a bonus one because I heard this one recently. But it's this idea of fairness, that you have people that have to go into the office. So it's not right that other people would be able to just stay home and work while these other people have to actually go to their jobs. And I think on some level, when you hear that, that makes sense, right? That makes sense. But where does that stop? Where does the line on what's fair in that situation stop? Because I bet those people that have to go into the office are making significantly less money than those people sitting up in their corner offices with all the windows. Maybe we should pay them the same. How come you get to sit up in your office making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year when this guy's got to go outside doing all the hard work that makes your company successful and he's making pennies on what you make? Maybe we should do that. Why should we have to go back into an office with cubicles when the boss sits in a corner office with a window? Maybe we should build all our office buildings in tunnel shapes where there's a hole on the inside and all the desks are on the outside or the inside, so everyone has a window. Maybe we should do that. Maybe everyone should just sit in the middle of the room with no desk whatsoever. Even the CEO, the vice presidents, the board, everybody just sit in the middle like everybody else. The idea that you have to go to an office and work because someone else has chosen a job different than you that requires that is silly, because where does it stop? If we have to adjust our life because we've made different decisions than other people, then like I said, start trickling that money down evenly to all of us, and I will happily go into the office. Otherwise, what sense does that make? Me being in the office isn't going to make the guy working out in the field feel any better. He's not out there working hard, sweating, he or she, but thinking to themselves, you know what, this is okay though, because I know all them other people that are back in the office. Nah, stupid. So now, what are the real reasons, right? That's what they tell you, and there are some grains of truth to that, but what are the real reasons, right? When you're behind the scenes and you're in these conversations, then what are these people saying? A large part of it boils down to two things: control and trust. Those things go hand in hand. They don't trust you, and they can't control you if you're at home. They don't know that you're working. They can't see it, and so they feel like they've lost control. And then they don't trust you, so now what do? Meanwhile, all the staff back at the office, they're not doing any more than they were before. They're still taking walks around the building, long lunch breaks, gossiping in the break room. Another reason is leader preference. Some leaders just don't like remote work. It's just that simple. And so they want their people in the office. And to be honest, I feel like that's fair. If you are a leader of a company and you just simply want your people back in the office, then just do that. But just tell them that. Let's not make up excuses about company culture and improving productivity. Just say like, hey, I don't like it. I want you guys back. At least then there's some level of respect of like, well, at least he's being honest and not some liar who's trying to trick us all into going back to the office for no good reason. The third reason is office space. I don't know if you've seen some of these buildings that you've worked in. They're expensive. They have leases on those buildings, or they paid for those buildings. They built them themselves. Now they've got bills to pay. And they can't have this huge, expensive asset sitting empty while all their people are off at their homes. So now they need you to come back into the office to justify this huge expense that they have on the books. And then the last reason, and I think this is probably the most sinister, is they don't want to be one of these companies that has to do layoffs. And I don't mean that in some heartfelt way that they don't want to have to lay their people off. They don't want the bad publicity of a layoff, but they need the turnover that results from a layoff. And so they will take a group of people that have been remote for a year or two, who have adjusted their lifestyle, many who joined the company having never lived in that spot, and now they're saying, hey, we need all of you to come back now. And the problem is that a lot of people can't. If you started work for a company across the country and you've never lived there, are you going to uproot your family and go move across the country to a place you've never been because now the CEO of that company wants you back? Probably not. So they're just taking into account that there's all these life situations that have happened that you're likely not going to give up. So when they force you to come back to the office, what are you going to do? You're going to quit. And for every person that quits, that's one extra person they don't have to fire. So those are the main reasons, the real reasons. So what does it mean for remote work? Is remote work dead? Is it dying? No. Remote work's not going to die. Remote work was here well before COVID hit, well before the last 2 years, and it will continue to be here. But will it keep scaling back in the near term? Yeah. And I think that they'll continue to scale it back because they want you back in the office. They don't have the government regulations forcing them to keep you out of the office. As competitors call people back to the office, that peer pressure of sending people remote is now gone. So they'll just bring you back. So I think that you're going to continue to see remote work scale back in the near term. But I think that remote work has opened the door for new companies who don't want overhead, who aren't going to get buildings, that are going to continue to pull in remote work. I think that all this push for remote work has let people who have specialized skills know they can do it from home, and now they will demand remote work. And so for highly skilled employees, you'll continue to have people who demand remote work, and so companies will have those options. And then I think over time, it will make more and more sense that remote work should stick around. And I think that companies will start to use it in small bits of pieces at a time. And as they get used to using them, they'll get more comfortable with it. The trust will grow. The control will loosen. And I think that in the long term, I think remote work has a bright future. But I think in the meantime, if you're in remote work, keep your head on the swivel. And if you're looking for a remote job, good luck and be careful. That is my thoughts on the death of remote work.